Okay. All right, so good evening, everyone. It is 6:02, so I will call this meeting to order. In our true fashion, we have to go through the roll call. So I will start with you, Tiffany. So District 1, Tiffany Jones.
Here.
Alex Matthias. Cassandra James.
Cassandra, present.
Chris Angle.
Here.
Stephanie Cobb.
Present.
Mina Diaz. Delon Jackson.
Here.
Mike Nail. Deborah Russo.
Here.
Sean Smith. Did I see you? Come on, Sean. I think you're on mute. Okay. Steve Greenberg. Jim McCulley. And Rosie Enriquez. Okay. All right. So I will welcome any comments from the public for items that are not on the agenda. If you would like to speak, please unmute yourself and state your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none, hearing none, we will move on. So the first item on our agenda is the community outreach meetings. So I just wanted to have a general conversation with you about the outreach meetings. How do you think they're going so far? How would you like to see them be improved? Just in general, any thoughts on the outreach meetings? I know it's early in the process, but if you have any thoughts, would love to hear them.
Well, I think they're going pretty well. I like the information that's being presented. It's presented clear, concise. I've never been in one of these, redistricting before, so it's been very informative for me. I just wish we had a few more members of the public.
Okay, go ahead, Tiffany.
Good evening, everyone. So I definitely agree with Chris. I would like to see a little more public participation because this is extremely important. But a comment did come to me yesterday, shortly after the meeting, and I guess it's a good opportunity to ask, since we do have some of the county staff here. I know a lot of the public outreach meetings and that we've already scheduled. There was a question of whether or not there was going to be one specifically for our Spanish-speaking populations in any one of the districts. I do know that we're able to provide translation support during our meetings, but those of us that know, like, the nuances between, having to stop and wait can be, almost, it could be a barrier for some. So I don't know if we're able to schedule or do some, targeted outreach to other populations. And I also got some feedback around American Sign Language not being a part of it. So I don't know if there's a way that we could run captions, or if the county or anybody has thought about that. But those were the two things that got brought back to me after yesterday's meeting.
Okay. So I know we haven't scheduled anything specific around, specific for Spanish-speaking individuals. We have tried to make at least the website compliant, but I think if there is a request for that, we would have to figure out how to accommodate that. And so, is that specific to your district, do you think, Tiffany, or?
It was a question that did come up after the District 1 community outreach meeting. And like I said, the person contacted me directly, which is fine. I mean, no big deal. And I think it would probably be something that we need to consider or think about countywide as well. So just wanted to put that on the purview.
Okay.
If I can, do you want me to address this a little bit, Michelle?
Sure.
So the Fair Maps Act does require that agencies provide language translation services if they're requested within 72 hours of a hearing. That's a more, and the list of languages that would be required in Solano County is something that the Secretary of State's office was supposed to put out county by county. I don't know if they have yet, but presumably in Solano County it would include Spanish. Somebody else, I think in the chat, mentioned Tagalog, and that might be another one that could be provided. And in the online environment, most agencies are utilizing the ability to have translation services in the Zoom. And so that is something that we've seen others do, and we could work with the county on that. But we might wait for anybody to request it. There's also a possibility of, maybe doing a hearing where we have a presentation that would be done in Spanish, and our staff is prepared to be able to do that. And that in that case, we could have a presentation done in Spanish with an English translator. And ASL or sign language, we have seen in the past, the State Redistricting Commission does do sign language, but I have not seen that in a local redistricting yet.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments or suggestions regarding the outreach meetings?
Hi, it's Stephanie Cobb here. I'm kind of agreeing with Tiffany that we do need to put something out for our members of the community, but I think putting on the website saying that, like, I understand that there's 72 hours that someone requested, but not necessarily when you go to the website, you see it all in English, or you can make the change. There's nothing there that says, at least when I click around, that basically says it, that if you make a request, this will be there for you. So if we can put that on the website, if I miss it, then I miss it. Then that way, at least we are addressing some of the concerns if people that come out and have it. I do agree that we do need, I think for our two major languages for Solano County, whatever they are, that we should have basically a county meeting in that language with the translation for English. And that way people feel a lot more comfortable and expressing what they want.
Okay, well, we can certainly add something onto the website that states that they have the ability to request translation services. I can certainly add that in. And we'll look into the doing a translation, a Spanish version of the presentation. And I'm wondering, since we want to do it countywide, would the suggestion be to have it done in a virtual meeting so that everyone all over the county can tune into it, or would you want it in a specific area? Anyone can answer that.
I saw Delon's hand go up, so that's why I was waiting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it
Go
was for
ahead,
something
Dylan.
else, but if you want me to, it was for something else, but if you want me to, I can answer that. I think that if we're gonna do it, it should be for all the county, for the whole overall county. So to address that for everyone. But my question is, in the past, 10 years ago, those who were a part of the redistricting, did they have a big turnout? Was there a big turnout before? Or is it this, has it always been this low of people not participating that much?
I can speak to this a little bit. So just first off, in 2011, At this point in 2011, most agencies already had draft maps. And so there was a lot more engagement because people knew that this is the map that's being talked about and they didn't like where this line was, or it made it more real. We've seen at the statewide redistricting commission a lot lower levels of engagement. When the commission 10 years ago did their first LA meeting, there were like 200 speakers in a packed Norwalk. It was at a university like auditorium, and they had 12-hour hearings with just back-to-back-to-back speakers. And in the hearings that they've been having recently, they open up the phone lines and they just ask if anybody wants to call in, and they'll sit there for lots of time with nobody calling in. And it's been true in other jurisdictions as well. There was a redistricting meeting, the first redistricting meeting in Pasadena had one person came. That was an in-person one. Other virtual ones have had pretty small levels of turnout. I think the biggest issue is that since data's not out and lines haven't been drawn yet, we're getting less people or fewer people who want to engage in these early phases. But we also have more time to try to get this input, and so it makes this kind of input more important if we can try to get it done. But I don't think it's necessarily anything that we're doing. I think it's just that statewide we're seeing a lot less engagement prior to map drawing.
And just
Thank
to
you.
pick back on that, I think we might also be seeing the onset of California opening up and people using their time to go on vacation or be out and about. So I think that the whole transition back to normality is not helping either.
Okay, thank you.
But please do keep encouraging. I mean, at the end of the day, you guys are the ambassadors for your districts and for the county on this project. So if you have groups that you're involved with, or please keep encouraging people to participate in the process. Because sometimes it's more isn't always better. Sometimes just having quality feedback is more important. So I think if we can find a good group of people that are really interested in this, would be good to hear their feedback.
And so, I do want to just really quick, Michelle, I really want to piggyback off of a couple of the comments, especially the one that you said, Paul, around, at least in 2011, we had like some draft maps to look at. I know when we were doing this in Vacaville and Vallejo, you still had to do the guesstimation, right? And I think what some people unfortunately are looking for is like the example, to kind of follow suit with. And I know the Redistrict R is not up and ready to, be, rolled out yet, but I think there's just a little bit of hesitancy around like being the first one to submit something, and it may or may not look, perfect. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. They just don't have an example of what it could look like. But, again, I think, maybe some more social media outreach. I did get my little postcard from the county and my email from the Registrar of Voters office. So I found that was very helpful. And the direct link to come, to look at the website was beneficial. So I do want to say thank you for that outreach that I have been seeing.
And feel free to forward that email on to interested parties as well, so that they have it. Chris, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was saying I agree with Tiffany. I think once the District R program is up and running and people have something and we have something we can show people and lead them to, kind of a little toy to sit there and play around with, I think it can become more real. Right now, I can see how it might, be vague to a lot of people because we say we're drawing lines, but I mean, people may not kind of grasp yet kind of what that means yet. They don't have a picture in their heads yet. And I think District R will help with that.
Well, I know Paul Shop's working on getting that to us, so we're hoping to get it really soon. Okay, any other conversation around the outreach meetings? So if not, I wanted to move on to the comments that we received. I hope you all had an opportunity to look at the comments. I think that if there are if there's questions related to the comments or something's not clear, we need to engage the person that sent the comments. So you can send me, if you have any specific questions related to it, please feel free to send it to me. The information is, so I put a link in the agenda to the actual website where the comments are. The person's details are on the website who submitted the comments. So you're also welcome as a committee to reach out to that person if there's specific clarification that you need or just want more information on their comments. But I hope you've had a chance to look at the comments and also start, so it sort of bring me into the next thing I also wanted to talk about is, in September, we need to submit a report to the board. So we need to start looking at this data on what that report might start looking like. So, I think those are things we need you to start thinking about is what type of report will you consider sending to the board? I know that there's a lead for each one of your districts. My suggestion would be that the leads maybe start thinking about getting together and start talking about how we're going to get to the point of getting this report done for the board members. Any conversation on that? Are you talking?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Were you talking, Sean?
No, I did unmute myself though. I think that the smaller group might actually help people might help facilitate a little more discussion, because I think the more people that are on the Zoom call, I think sometimes people are reluctant to speak up, and I think and honestly, there's a little more accountability on each person. I think when you're in the smaller group to kind of give some insight and maybe figure out a game plan. But I think maybe we could have the leads meet together and kind of hash this out a little bit further, and then report back to the group. Maybe some things that we think might be helpful as far as how to compile that report, and then also get feedback from the rest of the group, and sort of create a skeleton for that, and then kind of get the snowball rolling.
Okay. So would that be something you would consider just taking the lead on getting the group together?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I can reach out and set something up.
Okay. And feel free, if you'd like county staff there to answer any questions you have, feel free to invite us to your meeting. If not, we're happy to be contacted by phone or email if you have any specific questions related to your game plan. Tiffany, go ahead.
So I do have a question around. I'm glad we're talking about the report for the Board of Supervisors. What kind of data are we going to be looking through and sifting through to report back to the Board of Supervisors on? Is it specifically the outreach meetings, information that's been coming out? I just want to kind of wrap my brain around it so I'm a little more prepared.
So yes, so the report to the board in September is all about what you heard at these outreach meetings. We're going to report to them what people have submitted as communities of interests. We might find common themes among the different districts of these communities of interest. And then also, even though people are not perhaps giving testimony in the actual meetings themselves, a lot of them are asking specific questions. And so I think if you're listening to the questions that they're asking, we should probably make note of those as well. Just note that, you know, these are the types of things that people were interested in hearing about or getting interested in, so we can let the board know a lot of what we heard, you know, but collectively what we heard as a group. And there's no standard format. You guys can figure out how you'd like to present the data to the board at some point. So that's why I was thinking it's probably a good time to start considering meeting as a you know, the leads as your committee members and start thinking about how you're going to formulate that report. Did you want to add something, Paul?
No, I think this is the great discussion to be having. So.
Okay. All right. Delon, your hands up.
Yeah, so you somewhat answered my question then. I was just trying to figure out if this is going to be like a PowerPoint presentation that we have to give to them. So I think you somewhat answered my question on that.
Yeah, I think it's up to you. You know, and I'll certainly help. I can certainly help figure out what needs to be in the report, or, you know, if we have too much information in the report. So at the time when we start getting the report ready to go to the board, I'll certainly help you with that process. But I think we need to start thinking about how do we put the data together? How do we present the data? And there's a myriad of ways you can do it. You can do it in a diagram format. That seems to be popular lately, you know, little diagrams with statistics on. But I don't know if this data lends itself to that. But there's certainly, I mean, you can start thinking about how you'd like to do that, and then I'll help with the transmittal report that'll actually go into the agenda item. And if you end up wanting to do a PowerPoint, we can certainly help with that as well.
One thing, Michelle, I might offer up is that we can maybe plan on having one of these meetings in the future, not an outreach meeting in particular, but one of our business meetings where we could go through some of the census data and show you on maps where some of the populations are. And even if you were to say, where's the Filipino population in the county, we could find ways to identify that and work through with you essentially what the objective data shows, what the data from the census shows. And that can be paired with the subjective data, which is what people call in and testify, in order to create like a fuller picture for your final report. And you probably want to do some things where somebody calls in and says, I'm really concerned about the Filipino community, and then they can describe where the Filipino community is. But then at the same time, we would have data from maybe a couple different sources to help map that a little bit for the supervisors and to help describe that community of interest, both in its kind of anecdotal way and also in the data way.
Paul, I think that would be very helpful because, again, it doesn't seem real to a lot of people who never have been through this process before, and being able to have something to put out there would be beneficial. I would actually like to have, you know, this business meeting so we could sift through this data and kind of look at it. That way, like if somebody asked me, you know, I could say, hey, you know, this is what I'm looking at here in District 1, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I would be appreciative of a meeting like that, and then to have something to look at.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I'll work with Michelle on scheduling something like that.
Is there any way we can get, in addition to the, so some of the demographic information, whether it be, you know, the rate of home ownership or maybe, you know, median age, something, you know, some of those demographic data things that we can consider, I think that would be really helpful to have some of that, because I think that sort of helps tell the story along with some of it's going to illustrate the testimony or the feedback that we receive.
Well, it's almost as if you were in on one of our staff meetings, because the data we're planning on presenting in general for municipalities will be all the census data, the race and ethnicity data, the population data, and a metric for income using median income by census block group, a metric for homeowner versus renter, using that as something we can map from the American Community Survey, and then also using educational attainment, like a metric like, college degree or not, some binary metric, so that we have something that lays out well, and we can have all of those on what we present to you.
Excellent.
So Paul, just going back to that meeting, do you consider, do you think we should do that meeting sooner rather than later, or do you think we should do it sometime closer to when they start working more on the data in the reports?
Let me see how quickly I can get something together for you. And then maybe once we have something at the staff level that you're okay with, that you feel communicates the things that the committee is asking for, then we can agendize that and put it on for one of these regular business meetings.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, so I think it sounds like you guys have now got a game plan to start working towards how we're going to get this report done. So, so good job on that. The other thing I wanted to talk about is it looks like, just given where California is going, that we're probably going to consider doing these Saturday meetings as in-person meetings. And I know that I'd spoken to you guys about, considering places that we could use for in-person meetings. What I do need is if you could, if you have figured out any specific options, if you've had a chance to maybe talk to one of the supervisors regarding that, I'm looking for some ideas so I can start reaching out and secure the venues for these meetings.
Michelle, it was funny you brought this up. Maybe we're all on the same wavelength energetically, which is good.
Yeah.
I've only reached out to 2 places since our last meeting for potential Saturday meetings. And what I'm running up against here in Vallejo, I don't know about any other district, but specifically here in Vallejo for outreach meetings, there's limited space. I don't know how else to say it. Even though California is open, and even though there are certain restrictions within the city, the mask wearing, I think like one building was a GVRD building. They're not really doing that right now. Like as of this month, something may change, in the next few weeks as they figure it out. But even some of the trusted community centers, some of the churches I've reached out to, like, would consider it. They just need to know what the parameters, would be. So I can get you the list. I can get you the names of one of the churches I did speak to. But I don't know if the supervisors have any pull when it comes to, city facilities and being able to use those. Because I think at one point they thought it was an event where you had to, like you had to pay, put down a deposit or something like that. And I was like, no, it's for the county. They're like, well, we're not doing anything like that. So that would be helpful. So maybe some guidance around that.
Okay, so yeah, that's fine. So, well, specific to Vallejo, to me, the most obvious place would be maybe the fairgrounds, and we certainly have some pull there, and it's a big space. So I think the fairgrounds could be a good open area for us to use, and if that would be something that District 1 and even District 2 wanted to use, we could certainly secure that area to do meetings. I can reach out to the fair and find out what's available. So I know we've done huge dental clinics there, and there's lots of space there, and I think it would be an option.
I was getting ready to say, could we use that when I actually like the fairgrounds? It's close to where I live, so I can walk.
Okay, perfect.
I was going to ask, in the past, what kind of venue size are we looking at? I mean, is a library sufficient? Maybe like a back in one of the city libraries. I mean, is that something that's usually a good enough size for this type of event?
I think probably yes, because I think we're already seeing what the turnouts are for the meetings. So I think, yes, that probably is. I mean, we were talking about it in-house in our staff, between our staff, and we were talking about the libraries being options and also maybe the city halls. But there are some of the city halls aren't as large or don't have as large meeting facilities. But yeah, if there's a library that you think, and I don't know off the top which district you're talking about, but we can certainly look at that.
In our district, we spoke with our supervisor, so he gave us a couple of places and locations. So I'll definitely get back with you and give you that list of locations that we were given to us.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you can just send me an email or you can give me a call next week. Actually, I'm not in tomorrow, but you can definitely give me a call next week and we can talk about it.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Dylan. Anyone else have any ideas or suggestions? Or can I just assume that you'll send me some information for your district? Okay, I'll assume. Okay. And then the other item, the last item I wanted to talk about was, and maybe it's not right now for this, but I wanted to talk about the frequency of these meetings. I know initially we set them for the first and the third Thursday of each month because we had your initial training and we wanted to get geared up to start doing the outreach meetings. But we are already there, and now you're going to have your leads from each group doing sort of like a subcommittee to start talking about the report. Did you still want to meet every first and third Thursday, or did you want to go to a monthly meeting? Do you think this is still helpful it's almost every other Thursday at this point? So as a committee, I think that's something maybe you guys need to discuss among yourselves and figure out if that's what you want to do. We can accommodate whatever works for you.
I'd like to keep going with the meetings as they are. I think it's a good point to have us come together. I mean, we're going to be presenting this report before we know it, and I just think it's a good touching base point and kind of keeps everything on track.
Okay, perfect. I'm happy to do that, and I'll be putting your agenda out for next week again. Not sure what's going to be on the agenda, but hopefully your subcommittee can start meeting and talking about the report, and maybe they can do a report out next week of what the discussions were, so that everyone, in the next couple of weeks, so everyone can get on the same page of what's going on. Jim, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that in Vacaville, there's a couple of locations that I think we can get with the city on. I'll try and get that nailed down by tomorrow and see where we can go from there. I know there's a county building that Rosie is familiar with, and close to where she lives, that's available periodically, so we can look at that. And we've also got the airport out there that has facilities. So I don't think there's going to be a problem getting space for these meetings for District 5.
Okay, so thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead, Cassandra.
I just wanted to bring up, because I think we're speaking from the privilege of us owning cars, and we need to make sure that we look for spaces that are accessible to everyone, including our unhoused neighbors as well, because they should be included in this process.
Absolutely, and that's the biggest reason why I was asking specifically for input from you guys. I know that when the board initially discussed the concept of having an advisory committee and doing the outreach meetings, that was one of the items that came up, was specifically to consider locations for in-person meetings to be on public transportation routes.
Would there be a possibility, and I know I'm going all the way left, but it is what it is. Along the lines of on transportation routes, I completely agree with Cassandra. And I'm thinking just about where we live in District 1. Would there be a possibility to have a free shuttle service, at one of the transit areas to get people to and from, these meetings in District 1, maybe even District 2. I know the paratransit does stuff like that, but is there a way that we could collaborate with Soul Trans to kind of make sure that that happens if we decide to do something at the fairgrounds?
So yes, I know that we've done that in the past when we did that huge big dental clinic. We did communicate with Soul Trans and had them provide rides. I just don't know about the volume. We knew that for the dental clinic that there would be a lot of people showing up for that. I just don't know for this what the outcome would be, and I'm thinking the ask might have to come through one of the supervisors' offices. So then, yeah, we can look more into that. Cassandra, did you still have your hand up for something else? Okay. Jim, did you still have your hand up?
No, I was thinking, District 1 is certainly the most urbanized, I think. But we have bus schedules and bus routes in the other cities. When we're getting out into the more rural areas and to the agricultural areas, I mean, you drive, you get somebody involved with that. So I think there's a lot of options on the table for people. For instance, in Vacaville, if you need to get around, you can actually call the bus company and make a arrangement to get picked up. I mean, these things are available out there. I'm not sure what goes on. I don't know. I have no idea what goes on as far as that's concerned in Vallejo and Benicia. I just don't know. I'm ignorant of it. Is anyone that lives there familiar with what they have available?
We have Soul Trans, but again, we're talking about a community that is primarily disenfranchised and disengaged. And so if we're an advisory committee trying to engage different populations in our district, I found doing this work, you have to do unconventional things and outside the box things. And I think being able to provide our community a ride to a meeting that's going to affect their community for the next 10 years, I think it's money well spent if that's an issue. I think we have to be a little more creative down here to be able to get some of the things done. And so, again, my thing is, if we're going to utilize the resources, let's utilize them because they're not being tapped into right now. And I don't know if anybody else from my district wants to chime in. I only represent a certain area. Well, me and Cassandra do. We live in the same area.
Yeah. Thank you for speaking to that, Tiffany, because it's more about we're now just coming out of a pandemic that has exacerbated the gaps for particularly historically excluded communities. So understanding that and wanting to make sure that they are included, because this is supposed to make sure that all communities get the resources that they need to thrive and move forward. We need to make sure that they're at the table. And we're in the summertime. So it's not fun, nor is it healthy for us to make sure that an elderly person or someone with disabilities or even an unhoused individual walk from one bus stop, especially to the fairgrounds, because that the nearest bus stop and the buses don't run as frequent either. And you can't just call to have the bus pull up, unfortunately, in this area. So just making sure that people have that accessibility and that they're safe accessing these meetings.
Okay.
So is there a possibility that you can get Michael transportation that might can help, who's from Vallejo in that area?
Again, I think whatever outreach we do, and I'm pretty sure Mike and his family would be able to do something like that. But I'm also saying we got county and other resources, so why not tap into both? This is a county meeting. Great if we want to invite our local business leaders to participate and do some outreach, but I'm looking for more of the accountability to come from the people that are asking us to do the work.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. Just giving a suggestion, that's all. So, and also just to help out, because we all on the same page, all of us are working throughout the whole Salina County itself. So what about Mare Island? Is Mare Island another area that might be helpful out there in that district?
I have some reservations about Mare Island only because, again, and because I work on Mare Island too, the accessibility there is very limited.
Okay.
And I don't even know, I mean, unless you wanted to use my school, and that's a whole other, facilities request, with the school district. But, unless one of the local businesses, Touro University is on Mare Island as well. That's another population. And I think that's actually District 2, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, District 1, District 2. So if we wanted to do a combined meeting, I don't see a problem with it. But my concern about Mare Island is it's not readily accessible to a lot of our residents who don't have cars, and there's no bus that physically goes, no city bus that physically can go onto the Mare Island infrastructure from 37, or if you come down Tennessee Street.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I see, Alex, you have your hand up.
I think you're on mute, Alex.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
I'd like to, because I know when we first started, the ladies down there in District 1, I believe it was, had indicated that they had experience in the redistricting kind of thing for the city of Vallejo, for the various the council seats, I believe it was. What was your experience with the community there trying to have input? How did that all go? I know you all work diligently yourselves. I understand that, but I'm just wondering what the response was within the community itself.
It was still very new. Small groups of us kind of worked together. Like I always say, it was like minds that just kind of came together and sat down at my school for 4 or 5 hours every week and drilled out these maps. And then there was a larger community meeting at a local church where another couple of organizations brought in MALDEF and a couple of big time people to kind of help draw the same map that me and my group created, just maybe 2 or 3 census blocks between each district. So we, to my knowledge, we had about 2 or 3. And of course, the one very similar to the meetings that we're having now, there was outreach throughout each perceived district. So we had an outreach in South Vallejo. There was something going on in North Vallejo, East Vallejo, West Vallejo. So the city tried.
So you were able to get the participation from the community by going out yourselves and soliciting it? Is that how you got the participation? Yeah,
most of it. And the city did help, but now, I'm just being honest with you, this was 2018, so we weren't dealing with the pandemic, you know.
And that's not a trivial matter. Absolutely. Yeah.
But we got it done.
Now we're getting more and more people vaccinated, so hopefully that'll help people feel more able to participate. Hopefully.
And I just think us doing it virtually too is opening up, keeping accessibility for those that, can't physically come to a meeting, that they can still at least join or listen to the recording. So I like the fact that it's, our meetings are recorded, and people do have I feel like people have more of an opportunity to participate rather than, other than just coming to the meeting. We were doing this in 2018. You had to be at the meeting. It's like you had to be there physically, or you lose out. And I don't like those kind of confines. So I think that this is structured very well. It's very comfortable. But I feel like there's just another layer that we may be missing countywide. And I'm more interested in what's going on in the rural areas and how to, get those individuals a part of this as well, because that's a huge, region that's very much going to be affected by how we, these lines are drawn as well.
And how the population, is spread out. I mean, in Solano County, you've got, it's an interesting dynamic up and down, with half of the county being agricultural, and then, specific urbanized areas, and then specific places where businesses are concentrated and other kinds of things. So it's going to be interesting.
So just on that note, I just wanted to add in that Alex, he's having problems with his mic, and he put a note in the chat that said he's having problems, but that he agrees with what Tiffany and Cassandra said. And he says he lives up in the hills in East Vallejo, and this area is not accessible by public transport. We have a sizable senior population that would benefit from having an additional transport option available. So thank you, Alex. Okay, so just going back to the conversation that you guys just had about the population, we do have population numbers right now. They're not the latest census data numbers, but I will send you out that information. Right now, there are District 5 is actually the largest district. It's got the most highest population in it, and it's mostly because of the expansion that has happened in South Vacaville area. There's been, the housing community that's grown there. So, but I will send out the map, and I'll add the population data that we know as of today. I will send that out to you. I've asked our GIS specialist to make that map with the population data, and he'll also state where the data came from, so that at least you have something to start looking at.
That would be very helpful.
Good.
Yes,
That'll be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course. So any other discussions? Sean, I will see your hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick point. And first I want to say, Michelle, I think you've done a really good job so far. I think as in the county, I do think they've done pretty good on the access so far. I mean, having virtual and in person and offering that over a series of meetings that anybody can attend, I think is I think that's really good, especially given, the host of factors that we have now, whether it be COVID, recovering kind of from COVID, or seasonality, and, we've all probably been to city council meetings that, are, sometimes they're just not well attended. So I don't want us to take a lack of interest and a lack of our effort collectively, whether it be the county or the advisory team. So even if we get small numbers, I think if we focus on getting quality data and getting really good feedback, sort of as maybe more of a focus group than a large survey, I think we can take that and the information that the information that we have amongst the advisory committee, I think we'll be able to put together a really good report. So I feel pretty good about that.
Right. Okay, any other comments before we close the meeting? Seeing none. Well, thank you, everyone. Please do let me know when you are having your little sub committee meeting to start talking about the report. Just want to keep track of how you guys are progressing. So thank you, everyone, for participating tonight, and thank you for all the comments. Those are really helpful to me, and I will make some updates to the website as was suggested. With that, we will see you again next Wednesday night on the Zoom meeting for the District 3 outreach meeting. I do believe that Supervisor Spearing will be present in that meeting. He has noted that he would be present in that meeting, but not in the second District 3 meeting. So for now, that's as much as we know. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good.
Thank
Good night.
you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.